Hi, this is Valentine and I am making a video explaining how I connect the Sabbats to the nature within the desert. And I'm making this video because I am a part of this group on Facebook called YouTube Pagans, and there is some problems going forth about this being a temperate zone wheel of the year, moreover, and so I never had a problem with this before, so I figured I'd share what I'm doing. Hopefully this will help. And I live in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona, Pinal County specifically. I'm not exactly sure if the weather here is specifically different from other counties or whatever, with a part of the Sonoran Desert and all that, but I can't know who it'll help, but I hope it helps somebody. I'm going to start with Litha because it's the easiest. Litha is supposed to arrive when the powers of nature reach their highest point and the earth is awash in the fertility of the god and goddess, the day of the longest daylight hours. So, sunrise is just before, sunrise is long before 6 a.m., so you're not gonna see sunrise here. It's just not gonna happen at the unless you get up excessively early. The temperature is in the 3 digits, so 100, 110, 120, probably closer to 120 because it's summer in June. So it's really hot, and I'm saying Fahrenheit because so the powers of nature being at their highest, yes, this is the highest amount of heat we get throughout the year. Like, while it will get warmer, not necessarily Litha, but Litha is the hottest holiday out of all of them. And generally people want to go out and swim because it's too hot to do anything else. And the ground is scorching to be barefoot on. Like, you just go walk outside. Anywhere you walk, if you're outside barefoot, you're gonna scorch your feet, and the longer you're out barefoot, the worse it's going to hurt when you come in. And I actually wound up burning my feet after being outside for a simple walking to the mailbox and back. It's like, wow. That's how hot it is. It's the longest day in midsummer, and we're celebrating the heat on Litha mostly. It's hooray, it is really hot. Next holiday is Lammas. It's the time of the first harvest. I'm not a farmer, so this doesn't affect my practice at all. The god starts to lose his strength due to less sun. The goddess watches in sorrow and in joy as she realizes that the god is dying. It lives on inside her as her child. Nothing in the universe is constant. So that's what Lammas is supposed to be celebrating, going along with the Wiccan mythos. And sunrise is just before 6 a.m., so it's not necessarily going to be 100% bright when you go outside at 6 a.m., but it will be bright. It's monsoon season, so there's lots of dust storms, followed by heavy rain. Normally, it isn't always followed by rain, but it most often is, and thus rain is very refreshing. We don't get it much. Lightning storms, dust storms, it could represent the emotions of the goddess because it's not necessarily completely stable emotions from what I can tell. And these often block out the visibility of the sun, so it does seem to make sense that the god would be dying. And due to the rain, the plants are more vibrant, and it's like more in bloom. It's like really pretty. The green is more green than normal, which is saying a lot because normally our greens are very nearly yellow, and you can just see how green they are, and it's just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, so that goes well, except for when it gets around to weeding the yards. That's generally not a pleasant task. But the next holiday is Mabon. It's the completion of the harvest. I'm not a farmer, so this doesn't really affect me at all. And the god prepares to leave his physical body and begins the great adventure into the unseen toward renewal and rebirth of the goddess. Nature declines, the goddess nods in the weakening sun, though fire burns in her womb. She feels the presence of the god even as he wanes. So that's what Mabon is supposed to be about. It's not raining anymore. Heat temperatures are no longer 3 digits. Plants are no longer excessively vibrant. That is how it signifies its fall. Because it's not... the temperature is still excessively hot. I mean, it's probably 80s and 90s, but it's not in the 3 digits, which is really good. Because we don't want it to be in the 3 digits year-round. That would be horrible. But, yes. And sunrise is shortly after 6 a.m., so if you get up at 6 a.m., you can start watching the sunrise. It's very, very nice. And, we can tell it's fall because it's not, the plants aren't vibrant anymore, and it's not raining, and the temperatures, yeah. Next up, Samhain. The god dies. Separation between physical and spiritual realms are thin. It's also pagan New Year's. Sunrise is closer to 6:30 or 6:40. Things just aren't as lively as they were before because we're going to school in the dark. Because, like, 6 a.m. is when we leave the house and stuff, and, like, we're going to school in the dark because, like, seriously, school starts at 7. We get to watch sunrise, but sunrise doesn't happen when we first start going to school. It happens when we're on the bus or when we get to school, depending on how early our buses arrive. And so my friends normally start wearing jackets because the lows of the temperatures are just before sunrise. And the lows during that time of year are probably... well, generally they're anywhere between 40 degrees and 20 degrees colder than the highs. And the highs are generally still 70s or 80s, but anywhere between that, and thus we find it to be cold in the darkness before sunrise because we're wimps and really, yeah. But, yeah. Death is on the mind due to so many holidays in many different religions actually representing death around this time of year. Like, everyone is thinking about it. Not just pagans, not just whatever religion you're a part of. It's every religion, almost. Not every. I mean, there's probably a lot of religions that don't have death holidays, but a lot of people are thinking about it. And because everybody is thinking about death, the idea of death is more potent. It's more in the air. It's more there. The ground is not scorching to walk around on, but it's not cold either. It's ground. It's there. And it's definitely a time to get things in order and make new plans to make things better, as that is generally a good thing. This is the Dead Land. This is the Cactus Land. I'm often surprised that T.S. Eliot was not referring to Arizona, but I know he wasn't because he had never been to Arizona ever, nor had that been a name place for anything that existed to him. But T.S. Eliot is my favorite Samhain time poet, and what I just quoted was a part of the Hollow Men. And it seems to be very Samhain-like to me because, I don't know, it seems to be talking about Arizona. But it's probably just talking about random desert somewhere in Europe. I don't know. I love that poem. Hollow Men. Alright, next holiday is Yule. The goddess gives birth to the god at Yule. It's the greatest darkness and the shortest day of the year. The goddess rests after such a delivery. So sunrise starts after class. Sunrise is after 7 p.m. Not 7 p.m., 7 a.m. And sunset is around 5 p.m. So it's definitely the shortest day of the year. And that definitely means that the sun isn't out as long as any other day, and things just are very, very dark. So, us school kids going to school, we pretty much are standing in the dark for an hour before school starts. Which means it's really, really cold because the lows just before sunrise are closer to 30, 40, or 50 degrees. And that's cold to us, like really, really cold. I mean, it's not as cold as other states or whatever, but here in the desert, it generally doesn't get below 36 degrees for a low. 36 degrees happens like once or twice a year. And like throughout the weeks in December, it moves from 50 to 40 to 30 to 40 to 50, like from December to January. Those tend to be the low temperatures. The highs are still in the 60s and 70s, so yes, it is still warm compared to most other places. Personally, people who live here forever still would find that to be cold. I don't know about you, but 60s and 70s are cold to me. And 60s and 70s are the highs. They're just before sunset, around 4 p.m.-ish. And yes, that means it's colder than the rest of the year, which makes it winter, whether or not it is as cold as other places. And yeah, so if you want to feel cold, just get up at 6 a.m. Yeah. Next holiday is Imbolc. It's the recovery of the goddess after giving birth to the god. There are lengthening periods of light. It's the Sabbath of purification after the winter. Sunrise is back around 6:30, 6:40, so we're all getting excited because it gets to start. It's like, oh my gosh, the sun! Hi! Yeah, so it's general excitement, you know? And it feels good to have the sun back on you before school starts. Like, yay! It's definitely a time of letting go what is previously burdening you and just living as you want to live. It's like to allow for recovery into living. Like, just be with the moment. It's like everything is pure, everything is wonderful, everything is amazing. Hello, hello, hello. That's generally how it feels, and the sunshine definitely helps. Next holiday is Ostara. The goddess blankets the earth with fertility. The god grows to maturity and delights in the abundance of nature. Sunrise is shortly after 6 a.m. The highs are getting back to the 80s and 90s. People can wear less clothes because it's warmer again, or at least as school kids, because we're wimps and don't wear those in the winter time. Like, we wear more clothes in the winter. I don't know about you, but 60s, 70s require more clothes. So, really, Ostara is springtime, and what's going forth here is the fact that it's getting warmer again, and yay, spring, that means it's getting warmer. And ultimately, we can be happy about how warm it is. It's because it's in the 80s and 90s again. It's like, hooray. And then to Beltane, the goddess and god unites. Sunrise is just before 6 a.m. 3-digit numbers are coming back in the heat of the love. Yes, god and goddess getting it on makes the world really, really hot. So, yeah, it's 3 digits again. The summer has definitely started. And, yeah, welcome to Beltane. Yeah. So, that is generally all of the holidays. Goes back around to Litha, and the wheel of the year shall turn again. The Sabbats are sun holidays, and paying specific attention to the sun will make rejoicing in nature a lot easier. Because while the temperate zone may be the main one for where Wicca is, however, the sunshine is ultimately what the Sabbats are based around, and Arizona has sunshine. So, ultimately, with the Sabbats following the sun, if we get up at 6 a.m., go to bed sometime later than sunset, which we normally all do, because who wants to go to bed at 6 p.m.? Like, seriously. Yeah, so ultimately, we get up at 6 a.m., which is early compared to a lot of people. And it's not early for me, because I have to get up that early, like, every day, like, 5 days a week. Yeah, for the majority of the year, but the Sabbats are sun holidays. Paying attention to the sun will make celebrating nature a lot easier in the desert if you're paying attention to the sun. The plants don't necessarily change all the time. And while there are rose bloom seasons and those yellow flowers on the most common tree ever, it's like those bloom, like all of them bloom multiple times a year, but that's because it's sunshine all the time. Yeah. So, getting up at 6 a.m. allows for full viewing of what is sunshine, and going outside and experiencing the lows of the temperatures can make identifying the seasons a lot easier. And yes, you can see all 5 seasons if you get up that early. It's a lot more obvious if you feel the lows rather than the highs. The highs just are like, whatever, it's hot. But the lows of the temperatures, those are a lot more variant. And so waking up at 6 a.m., you can feel all of the lows. And you can definitely understand exactly when the 5 seasons are changing. Like, you can feel it really well, because you'll know based off of whether or not you need to bring a blanket outside with you. And don't compare these seasons to elsewhere, or else you're going to be very disappointed, because it does not snow here. And it doesn't get below 30 ever, and it's hot year-round, and there are seasons if you look in the right places. Simply taking a walk and listening to the birds and looking around at the abundance of brown and the small bits of rain and finding yourself a way to actually enjoy it and looking at this as beautiful is a wonderful way to connect with nature no matter the time of year. And while it may not be changing constantly, it does feel amazing still. So that's my take on it, and I hope this could help somebody. Blessed be.